Good morning. It's Saturday, November 7th. And I washed my hair. It's amazing. Feels so great. If you can see, it's long. I probably cut it twice a year. Twice a year. My mom's the same way. She has really long hair. Just trying to take care of myself today, like the rest of us. Still don't know the election results. We knew it would take a long time. Right now it's looking like the Democrats are gonna win. It's a beautiful day. Lights coming in between the leaves, and they're starting to turn yellow outside my window. Yes, Democrats look like they're gonna win. I mean, no matter who does, there's about half the country that is going to call foul play or say the votes were counted wrong, or it's like watching a bad football game. They're all kind of bad to me for the most part, except for Ohio State. I can get behind that. It takes me back to college. But it's all a game. We lose sight of that. And it's easy to lose sight when it feels like your very basic human rights are in the scales. So I want to say I get that, but I mean, I'm a woman, so sovereignty over my body, you know, I've talked about before, on the one hand, for my reproductive health, on the other, for whether I get a vaccine. Kind of different viewpoints on both sides, but I don't want to talk about politics today. I'm a little politicked out. Politicked off. Coffee tastes good today. Can see it or not. Almost done. Well, now it's on my lap. Well, it's not that hot. I'll clean it up. Now, hold on. It's a big spill. Dang it. It was delicious. There's still a lot more in there. It's a big mug. Just don't want this to be dripping. No use crying all over spilled coffee. That's all hilarious. Grateful there's still more coffee. Oh. Just day in the life, unedited. I want to talk about it's hard to pivot from that, isn't it? The topic on my mind today is the topic of needs. Expressing them, particularly. The first step is even recognizing and knowing what they are, which I will admit is pretty challenging for me, which has been a surprise to learn over the past really year or so. Like, wow, I don't really know. I oftentimes will have an external focus of attention, it feels like, on other people, and will mold my needs based off of other people. Which, as a social species, I understand. And when I'm always looking to other people, it's impossible really to fully get my needs met. It's good to lean on them for some things, but not as much as I think I do. And it's interesting too, because I spend a lot of my time in solitude, more so lately. And I think that is actually helping me in terms of understanding what I need. But taking that out and practicing it with others, that's the real playground. So I got to thinking about this because a friend of mine whom I'm interested in seeing if there's more than friendship there. Haven't met him in person yet, but we have a chemistry over the phone. And we were talking about sharing an Airbnb, and he brought up this idea of because we'd be near his family and he wants to spend time with his family. Understandable, he only sees them like once a year, which I've been there, and that's hard. He offered up the idea of just having me stay in the Airbnb and him just swooping in and out, which I think is actually a brilliant idea. And the word he used was, the phrase, I believe, was something along the lines of, that way I wouldn't feel obligated to come be with you. And, you know, he clarified it, that doesn't have anything to do with me, but he recognizes more to do with him and how he approaches or views other people's needs sometimes. And I was like, wow, insightful view of your own perception of needs. And so I got to thinking for myself and how I view my own needs and the needs of others, because I certainly found myself in a similar situation where I feel obligated to others' needs, which is a breeding ground for resentment, power struggles, especially if there's not open and clear communications like what I have with my friend. It's like interesting. So it had me thinking a bit about my own needs, you know, because there's likely a grain of truth in how I view other people's needs is probably how I think that they're, what am I trying to say? Words. That the way I hold my own needs might be a window into how I think others view their needs. Because that's my point of reference, right? Myself. And so when I've noticed for myself when I'm expressing my needs, sometimes, you know, when I feel empowered and responsible, I can ask directly for those needs to be met. Take a sense of ownership over them, and also can understand that sometimes people will say no and can't honor those needs, and that's okay too, and that's a time to renegotiate or walk away or whatever. And that feels easier. There's less dissonance there. I'd say that is an experience I have more often now as I've matured and gotten older, more experienced and better communicating. And there's a lot of times I find myself feeling either, when I express my needs, either like a burden to someone else by asking, like I'm a burden on them. Or on the other side of the spectrum, feeling entitled. Interesting. And interesting too, you could see how if you're meeting someone who already feels obligated by other people's needs, what kind of a clash that would be and how hard it would be to ask for needs in that situation. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit more because it's interesting. I think communicating my needs has come the way I've learned it, and the way I feel about needs and expressing them to others comes from my childhood experience with my caretakers and, you know, my bloodline, how my ancestors have experienced themselves and having needs. I believe that travels down. There's science that shows that those kind of things can travel down generations. So some of it's not even mine. So it gives me a little grace for myself if there's something I feel like I can't manage. It's like, well, this goes beyond my own life. That's bigger than I give it credit for. So looking first at that burden mentality, like I'm afraid to ask someone because it feels like a burden to them. And it looks like me being really indirect or not asking for the full entirety of I want, like edging on the safe side. You know, afraid they're going to say no. And that, I think, comes from kind of a victim mentality of being a kid and feeling like the people in my life, the people who were taking care of me, had so much on their plate. Like how could I possibly add to more of that? I'm already watching them being very, you know, feeling or seeming stressed out, or there being a reaction of anger or annoyance or dismissal when I express my needs. And let me be clear, I'm not blaming my parents or my caretakers for anything. They're doing the best they could. And they did have a lot on their plate. And I had a lot of needs. So, yeah, this isn't a roast. This is just an observation of how and why I think I respond the way I respond as an adult and as I was growing up. So there's the being a burden response, which I see probably the most often. And I think it's also part of why I have a challenging time knowing what my needs are, because it's scary to look, because if I am really familiar with what they are, then I'm going to have to ask for it. Maybe. Or I'm not in alignment with what I need. I'm not living authentically. The other side of what I think is the same coin is, like I said, asking from a place of entitlement. And entitlement, while it seems like on the very outside level, like big and powerful, it's again feeling disempowered and needing to use dominance instead of victimhood. Although I could argue that victimhood is a form of dominance sometimes if it's let me get my way in the past, which it has. it's just more overt, the sense of entitlement. Like it's almost, it takes a buildup of time of me being indirect and like that feeling like a burden. It takes a long enough time where I finally am like explosive with what I ask for, and I lose tact, and I'm like, now I need this. Haven't you known I needed this all along? I deserve this. And because I haven't been direct this whole time, or haven't been fully tapping into what I need and the level which I need, and I've been pussyfooting around asking for the full extent of what I need. And so because I had felt so small for so long, I try to make myself feel bigger and then feel entitled to get what I want or need. And both are coming from a place of disempowerment, and both rely, I think, or put the seed of responsibility in other people to have my needs met. Which was true for me as my brain was forming. My caretakers were responsible for getting my needs met. And I think as I continue to show up for myself and continue to ask for what I need from myself and meet those needs myself and ask for those needs from others without being attached to a yes or a no, knowing when to walk away, like that first way of asking I mentioned, I think that builds more of a central locus of control in myself, not in other people. Psychological term for like my own agency, and knowing how to get my own needs met. And this is not saying that we shouldn't lean on other people. No, we are social beings. I think in order to lean on other people in a healthy way that honors both people is to have the kind of insight and communication that I was talking about in my interaction that I had with my friend. Owning when you know you're feeling obligated, or owning when it's hard for you to ask for something and asking for it anyway instead of letting it build. And having the courage to ask for it and feeling that dissonance and being as open with what's coming up for you as possible. I think that's my work and my practice right now. And cleaning up the sticky desk. Have a lovely day. Thank you. And I love you.